Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hi, it's me.
I'm Mario. And
it's me.
Kyle, what's up, dude?
Hey.
Sounding normal.
Perfect.
So I have to preface it just in case the podcast. So Kyle, right before we do a little pre-meeting before the podcast starts, and everything was fine. We're all good. We're all ready to go. And then out of nowhere, his microphone messes up, and Joe had the best explanation. Our comparison. It sounded like those movies where they're trying to, or those like documentaries where they're trying to like hide the person so you don't know who they are. So they're like silhouetted and their voice is like super different. Kyle's voice changed into that type of person. We couldn't even like recognize his voice anymore. And this was not like a filter we added. It was just his microphone randomly did that. And the reason I'm prefacing this is because if it happens again, we're not going to cut the podcast.
While recording.
Yeah. You're going to hear a different version of Kyle, and that'll be okay. But for the most part,
if James Earl Jr. comes onto the podcast, if you start hearing the voice of Mufasa, it's just Kyle, we think.
Yeah. So it'll all still be Kyle's information, Kyle's opinions, but he might just sound a little bit different. We didn't get a new team member.
Sultry tones of Mr. Shrum.
I shouldn't have said anything. I should just let us record that way. All right. Well, let's go quick overview. So today, podcast overview, we are talking about sleep. So this one is actually really cool because it's a systematic review of sleep. And in the past, we've covered a lot of like individualized sleep studies here and there, but systematic review covers a lot of studies. And so we're going to get into what the findings are. Is sleep really that important? We'll talk about that. We're going to be talking about hard to kill, what that term means to us. We throw it around a lot. It's our most popular track. So we'll be talking about hard to kill, and then we'll be going over the workout River Heist, which is a good one. Yeah. All right, let's get into some updates. Joe, how's life?
Pretty good. So actually, I think I have to start off this episode with an apology, because I just feel like I need to do a formal public apology on the fact, because I created a heinous act. I committed a heinous act, and that was claiming I had squatted in short shorts, but apparently they are capris. So I just wanted to, retract that video, and they were not short shorts. They were not short enough. So I will try to do better in the future.
Yeah, those are pretty lengthy.
Short shorts.
Our community is well versed on what constitutes short shorts.
They really set the bar on the short shorts. The community did. Yeah.
Raised
that. Yeah. And I would wear more shorter, but like 7-inch inseam is where I'm comfortable. 5 inches, you would think like the bottom of your shorts would just shorten, but I think they take those 2 inches out of the crotchal region, and it's just not comfortable. So
crotchal region.
Yeah, just that whole area. Anyway, next Liz got one of the Christmas presents I got her was 2 of these books on baking and on how to make things gluten-free. Well, I didn't expect this to come, but now I'm getting like chemistry lessons on baking, and she's like showing me picture diagrams on like what certain things create bubbles and how to do baking. So I'm getting baking lessons a lot, which could turn out well, but I did not see this coming. And after she got him the next day, she said she couldn't sleep because she was awake thinking about the different kinds of combinations of flours she could make, whether it be high carb, low carb, high fat, high protein, things like that. So I'm getting those a lot now. That's my life.
So my mother-in-law was a baker I mean, she owned her own business and stuff as well. And baking basically is chemistry. It's and I don't even say like, hey, yeah, you have to be a chemist if you want to be a really good baker. There's so many factors. Like I had no idea how complex it was. It's on a different level than cooking by itself. Like baking is really crazy.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool to see, but it was just like as she's talking to me, I'm just like wide-eyed open, like, all right, I'll taste what you make, but I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Well, that's awesome. Get some breads, good breads in your house.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really cool to have like some bagels as well. It's just something simple that, especially if it aligns with our macros, that'd be cool. And
so you're still tracking? I thought you were coming off the tracking.
Good question.
Nope, we are still tracking because I don't want to get too far into my future updates, but I'm going to be upping my calories. So because I've been in a slight deficit, or in a deficit. So I want to go bump up to normal and feel what that's like.
Got it.
So I should probably measure that. Kyle, what's up?
So I got some grief in the Facebook group this week after Hannah's podcast dropped, and grief of various origins. One of those being the fact that Hannah does not have her own barbell, and apparently I'm a terrible husband for not having bought Hannah her own barbell. So there you go.
So I've seen those, and I even saw one, and they were threatening to start a GoFundMe for her. And I think you just call their bluff. Like, hey,
that's exactly what I did. I said,
do it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, start a GoFundMe. Get my wife a barbell. Actually, I tried to order a barbell last week from Rogue, and the typical thing happened. I had it in the cart, and before I could get out the door with it, the online door, of course, before I could get out the door with it, everything was gone. So I was in the process of ordering her a barbell. So just wanted to clear it up with everybody that she wants a barbell. I want to get her one, but they're out of stock everywhere. So that's just how it goes. Anyway.
We believe you.
Just like some public shaming.
Emily doesn't have a barbell, so
I know, and you even mentioned that.
Don't plan on getting her one.
You even mentioned that in the interview with Hannah that you had never bought Emily one, and nobody said a word to you about it. So whatever.
Technically never
it's
bought
cool.
Liz one either.
I can handle it. I can handle it. But
I technically never bought Liz one either. We just got one for free, like a hand-me-down one, so that was just good enough.
Yeah. Also have about 98% talked Hannah into doing a Spartan race with me this year. So maybe one of the ones that the GGA crew is doing, because we've got some people already signed up for races later this year. Hopefully Spartan actually gets to do their races this year, but got her talked into doing a sprint. So see what happens. Trying to pick which one we want to do. And but anyway, she seems
I think they'll run it.
To it.
I think the vaccine is going to help the world get back to normal pretty quickly here.
I hope so. I definitely hope so. But anyway, I think that would be a lot of fun, and that's kind of the next step of event for us to do. So we've done the road racing and we've done some of the other stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing a Spartan race.
What's the 2% that could not make it happen?
The timing of it. We got to find a time when she's not in school and stuff like that, and working out what to do with the kids for us to go do it. Cause I would like for us to not have to take our kids with us. So we'll see. But that's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, I'll give another construction update. We're moving along in the process. I think everything's pretty much good to go. Emily got to pick out doorknobs for the structure. And she texted me, and I thought it was really funny. She said, I got you knurled doorknobs.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. That's true love.
Thing.
That's well done. And you haven't bought this woman a barbell.
Yeah.
She buys you knurled doorknobs.
Yeah. So that is a flex. I just flexed with.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Big time. Big time.
With my doorknob selection.
Yeah.
What's funny is that probably also means it was a more affordable doorknob, but either way, it's
So-
knurled. It's awesome.
You're gonna have a chalk bucket to open your doorknobs.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what they actually look like. I didn't get a picture. She just sent me a text and said
Totally
this looks
chalking up before I come to the office.
selected. So yeah, you almost have to. I'll like hook grip the doorknob every time I open it.
You should get knurled cabinet pulls and stuff too. Just go all out with it.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any cabinets in this thing, but if I'll definitely keep that in mind.
It's a cabinet.
All right.
Sorry, I thought that was kind of a normal thing to have in an office space.
No, dude, that's weird.
Storage cabinets of some kind.
What are we gonna file?
No, I think I may be the odd one though. She's like, you want any like built-ins or whatever? I'm like, no, I would just want an open space, like a rectangle. Like that's it.
Wow,
I'll probably regret it later. But
I'm glad
Maybe
Joe
we
and I
should-
are on the same page and that
Can
whole
she just like
knurled
email us?
pool thing.
Can we just me and design it? Ashley can jump in too. Like,
yeah, you don't. I mean, if you have papers, you just set them on the ground.
oh, okay,
In
yeah.
stacks. It's been
The-
getting
It's a laptop for your lap. You don't need a desk, right?
right. There you go. The only other thing, I went on a trip this past week, which was awesome. It's been planned for forever, and I really didn't think we were going to go because of COVID. It was a skiing trip I planned with two friends, and that was great. We did a little bit of skiing. The conditions weren't awesome, but it was still really fun to go skiing. I go maybe once a year, and I had a good time. That was it.
You didn't hurt yourself.
Well, no, I didn't. You know, I'm starting to think BCT is not a great idea, but my lower back, like I was feeling pretty good about everything, and then my lower back does feel like a little jacked up after the skiing. I didn't like fall down or anything. It's just, I don't know, moving in weird weird movements and bumpy and all that. Like I said, the conditions weren't great, so it's kind of a rough terrain. But no, I think I'm all right. My back hurts a little bit, but I'm fine.
Get you a ski Jerred. Round
Yeah.
out that concept too, family.
I don't think I'll ever buy one of those, but
Yeah,
I wanted to for a long time, but I just don't think I ever will.
I used one at the gym here. It's okay. Like I think for sprints they'd be cool, but like it's almost like another Airdyne. But I think Airdyne you'd probably get more. I think it's a good way to warm up your upper body. I only use it like once. I only use it on like press day, and that's it.
Yeah, like I donated my Airdyne, and then I will probably buy a new one of those this year, the Rogue Echo, at some point, because I do miss having an Airdyne at times. Who says that? That was a weird.
Crazy
It
people.
felt weird when it was coming out of my
Yeah.
mouth.
I feel you.
People who don't put cabinets in offices say things
Yeah,
like
probably.
I'm psycho. All right. You guys make me realize how abnormal I am on a daily basis. And it's not like a good abnormal either. It's like, no, dude, you're actually kind of weird. All right, let's get into the study on sleep. And so this one was done in 2020. It's called The Impact of Sleep Duration on Performance Among Competitive Athletes, a Systematic Review. And I can pull it up on my screen there if you are watching the YouTube channel. If you're not, don't worry about it. I just said the full study name. So we're looking at sleep. Again, if you're unfamiliar, a systematic review means it's a study of studies, and typically the conclusions are very factual at that point because they have inclusion criteria and they look at a bunch of different studies and then they draw their conclusions on a particular topic. We've reviewed more than one systematic review on the podcast, but the reason I like to always preface it is because this is not like, a lot of times studies can be challenged. They're like, oh, well, they weren't thinking of this or they didn't do this thing. And we do that sometimes, but it's a lot harder for us to poke holes in a systematic review because they looked at 19 different studies. We could say, hey, we wish they covered this, that, or the other thing, but their conclusion is typically pretty strong. So there were 19 studies included in this systematic review spanning 13 different sports: karate, weightlifting, rugby, tennis, soccer, triathlons, marathons, sailing, basketball, swimming, taekwondo, gymnastics, and judo. So also very well-rounded. And it included a total of 395 athletes across the 19 different studies. So the systematic review examined all of the studies that have investigated the effects of sleep duration on exercise performance in competitive athletes. Let's see. I wanted to kind of go over their inclusion criteria because they went over. I covered like what kind of athletes, but also what were they looking at, because they normally exclude a lot of studies when they're going over this. So the study needed to report at least one sleep quantity metric in one objective performance measure. The study needed to be conducted on competitive athletes described as professional, elite, or competition level. Sleep duration needed to be measured the night before the performance outcome was assessed. The study needed to include athletes without injuries or pathologies that would affect performance, and performance needed to be assessed under normal atmospheric, like no study performance in extreme heat or high altitude, and physiological, so no studies testing performance when intoxicated or following long duration fasting conditions. The study also needed to be published in an English language journal. So those were the things that they were looking at and what they included and excluded. And so they didn't have any reason for you to not sleep is going to be the conclusion here. So in the studies that reported either aerobic or anaerobic outcomes, 9 reported positive results from greater sleep duration, 4 reported null results, and 0 reported negative results from greater sleep duration. Every single study that has investigated the effects of sleep duration on athletic performance has had either a positive or neutral results, never negative. So the big takeaway is sleep is as important as we say it is, and the reason we track it. One of my takeaways is you might even need more sleep than we encourage athletes to get. Our little checkbox in the EO3 elements is 7 hours. We say, hey, did you get 7+ hours of sleep? Part of that is because that's like the bottom end of what people need, and realistic for a lot of us with young children or waking up early for jobs and stuff like that. So, but 7 hours, you might even need more than that based off of what I read here. But what takeaways do you guys have?
So a couple of ones for especially good for our athletes are, to me at least, for when it comes to sleep, I think the first thing that will be affected as you go to train would be RPE, that's rate of perceived effort. So if you're tired and feeling sluggish, you're probably not going to feel like working out, and you're mentally going to be checked out of working out at that point, and that can be a huge deterrent and factor for your training. So that was one thing for the mental side of it. But even so, you can be, you can push back past that and be super motivated even if you're tired. So looking back past the part of, obviously, the more sleep, the better. How can this apply to training and your programming or your program, whatever you're doing? And it was really, really cool to see the different types of sports and different types of training that they put this on. So they had some anaerobic tests, some strength tests, some aerobic tests, coordination tests, and seeing the differences and how they affected them, the magnitude of what they affected was really cool, and how it could be applied to the training. So to me, how I read this, or how it can be, is that if you need more coordination, or you're being more explosive, or like strength endurance, you might need to have those on the days that you're better, more well rested. So if say you have a very busy work schedule, so like as your week starts, you're coming off of a weekend of good sleep, maybe put those days in the beginning of your week. Whereas aerobic and some anaerobic work, if you have that in your programming, maybe if you're during your work week, if you're regularly not getting enough sleep during the work week, push those to the back of the week, because aerobic performance wasn't impacted as much with lack of sleep than the higher coordination, more explosive anaerobic work. So I think if you realize those things, then it'd be good to you can really shift things and adjust your week for that. And if you really need to, there was one study that was looked at that caffeine gave a temporary boost. So if you do need to hit one of those sessions on a low sleep day, that works, but it shouldn't be done as like a long-term sustainability thing. So it's looking into all these different metrics, and what they saw was really cool for how sleep was exactly affected. And then depending on what your training is how you can adjust accordingly.
So we finally got something that we've been asking for a long time, is something to cover on just competitive athletes, right? On highly trained athletes. And they defined it even as professionals or elite competitive level athletes. So that's good. And that's something that I appreciate about it as well. But as Jerred kind of talked about, increased sleep duration is either positive or neutral in all studies. Decreased sleep duration impairs performance, period. All studies found that. And not only that, but the effect of decreased sleep duration is higher than the effect of increased sleep duration. In other words, not getting enough sleep is not only bad for you, but the negative effect of that is worse than the positive effect of getting more sleep. Does that make sense? So make sure that you're getting your sleep. I mean, it as Joe talked about with RPE, decreased sleep duration impairs your immune system. It compromises your immune system, which could lead to higher frequency of disease and sickness. If you're sick, not going to feel like training. And when you do train, even if you're sick, your performance is going to go down. Decreased sleep duration impairs your glucose metabolism. Not good. Not good for performance. Not good just for life. So, as Jerred said as well, the basic premise here is you need to get your sleep, and you might even need to be getting more than what we suggest. But it's pretty much increased sleep duration increases performance, has a positive effect on performance. Decreased sleep has a negative impact on performance.
Yeah. So one of the books that we always point people to, we covered on the podcast, is Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. And so I didn't know, I read that book and I was just like, okay, sleep is important. That's basically the takeaway. There are a lot of other cool things out of it, but it's really freaking important. I found recently that he made a few mistakes in the book and, just citing information and stuff. And I looked at all of it and I didn't realize there's this other side of this sleep thing. And the people who challenged him, I'm talking about, they didn't challenge on like whether or not sleep is important. It's very tiny mistakes that he made. And so he is going to be publishing like a version 2 of the book just to like make sure the book is 100% accurate. But I just think it's interesting that anyone would even go to the lengths to like do that, because it was pretty minimal stuff that he made mistakes on. And it could happen in writing a book, just how you cite the information or whatever. But it doesn't change the takeaway of how important sleep is. But it just drives home the point that a lot of people don't want this to be true. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't want it to be true. They want to be like, no, I'm fine, or 5 or 6 hours. Like, that's good. I hear that all the freaking time. People are like, no, all I need is 5. It's like, no, you operate just fine because you get 5 every day. But if you were to start sleeping 8 or 9 every night for months on end, and then you went back down to 5, you'd realize how far behind you were, how far behind your full potential you truly were. And so sleep is very important. The chances of you being that person who's okay with 5 or 6, he does put that in the book, which was not one of the mistakes, is like this on par with like getting struck by lightning or something like that. Like, how many human beings are actually okay with less sleep? Everyone thinks that they're this genetic anomaly, but it's very, very rare. So you're most likely not that genetic anomaly. You're just someone who's been accustomed to getting less sleep. And Joe, what you pointed out is like having caffeine the next day after not having that much sleep. You mentioned not doing it long-term, but I would say that's basically the American strategy for life is let's get 5 to 6 hours and then have a venti from Starbucks and everything's going to be okay. Again, really bad cycles to get into. So you have to start focusing on your habits to make sleep, better. But the thing I don't want people to do is stress out if you're not getting a lot of sleep. I think that's where this mentality comes to, of people not wanting it to be true. We had someone post in the Facebook group not that long ago, like she was talking about, she was joking, but she's like, I wish you didn't have the 7 hours of sleep check mark on the EO3 elements because I have young kids or whatever. And I get that. We all go through these phases where we're going to sleep a little bit less. And I don't think that you should treat less sleep duration like you're smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. It's not really like that, So I think people do get stressed out if they're not getting those 8 or 9 hours. And on the same note, if you go to sleep and you say you don't wake up to an alarm and you wake up naturally at 6 hours and 45 minutes, I also wouldn't stress about that, if that's when you naturally woke up. But it's giving yourself a longer sleep window, the ability to potentially get more sleep and see what your body does over time. And you'll find getting more and more sleep really does affect your performance quite a bit mentally, like at work, and then also in the gym. And I know I stopped waking up so early. I did that for several years, and then I started getting more sleep. I'm still up by like 5:45, 6 a.m., but that's more sleep than I used to get. And this trip that I just went on was not a great sleep trip. Like there was a 2 hour time change, which isn't that crazy, but it still affected me to some degree. And then I don't know, the bed wasn't great. So I just slept like crap, basically the whole, whatever, 3 or 4 nights that I was gone. And I feel it, I feel different. I don't feel it after one day, but after the third or fourth day of not sleeping well, I'm like, yeah, I feel like a different person. I feel like I could probably run less fast. I feel slightly less motivated for things in general. So it's very obvious once you start getting a lot of sleep, what it's like to go back down on less. And it's a very subpar version of me.
You didn't take your weighted blanket?
Dude, I should have. I should have traveled with my chili pad, my weighted blanket, a sleep mask, melatonin. No, I'm just kidding. I could go crazy on all the things that you could do. But that is my tip for sleeping somewhere else, is maybe a sleep mask and melatonin. If you've ever supplemented with that, have you guys ever tried melatonin?
Oh yeah, big time. I
I
usually
don't
have
know.
that on hand. Maybe not always traveling with it on hand, but I usually have it at the house. And sometimes if I go places, I might take some, but definitely because I usually want to make sure I sleep.
Yeah. So melatonin is something worth giving a shot if anyone does have problem falling asleep. So it helps you fall asleep faster. It does not help pretty much after that. Just so people know what melatonin is and is not for. Like if you wake up in the middle of the night typically and you can't go back to sleep, that melatonin might not help you with that, but it definitely helps you fall asleep really fast. I've tried it here and there, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I would definitely harp on the or foot stomp the here and there, not habitually every day. Because
Right.
I went through a phase where I did that and it's not good. So do not do that, but it is good to do from time to time. Every couple of days or something. At least have 1 or 2 days in between when you're using it. Because if you can't sleep for multiple days in a row, then you might have to adjust something else versus just a couple of days in traveling or certain circumstances.
Yeah. And I have that tendency, like you're saying, like you give me something that is going to help me fall asleep, and I link sleep to like all sorts of awesome things. So you just, in my mind, gave me like a miracle drug. So it's hard for me, like willpower wise, to be like, don't use it.
Yeah.
Don't use it.
Some is good, more must be better.
Right. And so I have to be very mindful of things like that. And so, yeah, don't use it all the time. It's just like anything. If you start supplementing, with a hormone for too long, your body's going to stop doing what it naturally does. And then the rebound effect after that. Melatonin has been proven safe even up to like supplementation for 2 years. But then your body will start doing what it's supposed to do again. But it's like coming off coffee. Nobody likes coming off of, daily caffeine because it's just kind of crappy. It's very similar. I haven't had that, but I'm assuming it's very similar if you were to come off of melatonin after taking it for like a year, 2 years.
It also messes with your digestion.
Oh,
It stops you up.
the first time I ever took it, it gave me a really bad headache when I woke up. I had a headache that next day. And I hear a lot of people say that, but then every other time I've used it, that hasn't happened. So coincidence? I don't know. All right, get into the topic. Let me get this sleep study off my screen. Okay, so we're talking about hard to kill, what that term means to us. I have a lot to say about it, but I like going last. So what does that topic, what does that term mean to you guys, at Garage Gym Athlete and maybe just in general?
To me, it's ready to be ready for anything. Honestly, I like being able to run, to do races, to go carry things, to knock some stuff, wheel a sledgehammer and knock some walls down if I need to. If I need to help somebody move impromptu, I can go carry some couches and be totally fine. Play sports, whatever. So I think the general preparedness is fantastic. And also just like everybody has friends that, if you're into fitness, you have other friends that are into fitness, and there's so many different aspects of fitness that people are into. And we always talk about, there's bodybuilders and then power lifters and endurance people and all that stuff. To me, hard to kill, you're kind of have your toe in the water in all of these things. So you can kind of have something to talk about training wise with almost everybody, and me, we were just into the gym today. Liz and I were just messing around doing some deadlifting, doing some sexy Saturday stuff. And there was a power lifter in there and we just started talking with him because we were talking about that, like the knurlings on the bar and how crap they are at that gym and just shooting the shit with people that you might not normally. And then there's other friends that we have that are endurance people that run marathons and stuff, and we can talk to them about training and them about wearables and things like that. So just being adapt and all of it, and this not really for conversational. I don't work out just to talk to people about working out, but being able to have your experience and everything and being able to do all these things to where if you have friends that say, hey, if you want, let's go run a marathon together in like 2 months, or hey, let's go lift some weights and do these things, and then being able to actually do those in real life as well, to me is in line with being hard to kill.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I like also just kind of being able to move kind of freely in general. You know what I mean? I don't really have many aches or pains or movement restrictions just because of the training that we do. But I think I went kind of a different direction with it. And I think two things. The first thing that came to mind was kind of being more resistant to disease and sickness. And that's something that I've noticed since joining Garage Gym Athlete and kind of making these kind of healthy choices, healthy habits, and just getting in better shape is I don't get sick very often anymore. And especially today, with a pandemic going around, it's kind of nice to feel like you're pretty resistant to sickness and things like that. And I mean, I've been taking precautions and things like that as far as COVID, kind of restricted the amount of people that I'm around and wear masks and all that kind of stuff. But like most of that has just been like stuff that's been forced on me. You know what I mean? It's not really because I'm afraid of getting sick, and it doesn't just apply to COVID. It just kind of goes for everything. I feel good most of the time. I don't really get sick, and I don't really feel prone to sickness. I don't feel gross. I don't feel out of sorts very often at all. And so to me, that's something too, because that's something before I joined Garage Gym Athlete, that's something that I felt a lot, and especially had like stomach issues because of not eating well and not resting well because of that as well. And so just kind of being resistant to feeling bad and to disease and sickness in general. The other thing that I thought about was having a strong mindset. I feel like there are a lot of things out there that are, and this goes to disease and sickness as well. I think there are kind of silent killers out there. Things that creep in that you don't really see, things that you don't really notice. I think a lot of people, when they think of hard to kill, the first thing that comes to mind is being like you can handle yourself in a fight or something like that. And that's not how I think of it. I think there are more things out there that are more dangerous, that are silent killers, like disease or sickness, or just having a weak mindset and having a poor outlook on life. I think those kinds of things can be much more dangerous to your well-being than, what are depending on where you live, I guess, what are the odds that you're going to get in a fight on a regular day? You know what I mean? For me,
really after the age of 25, like,
yeah, for me,
chances should be very low.
Yeah, very, very low chance, that I'm going to be in a fight in general, but especially in a fight, like for my life, you know what I mean? Or something like that. So like to me, I don't think of that when I think of hard to, for other people, maybe that's different, but I think those silent killers are things that I want to be resistant to, like disease and sickness. And then also I want to have a strong mindset. I want to have a positive outlook on life. I want to be able to look at problems no matter what that problem is and be able to formulate a plan to solve that problem, and be just generally have a good positive outlook and be willing to tackle things should they come up. And those, it's kind of from the book Dune, which Joe and I are fans of. And I don't remember the whole quote, but part of the quote is fear is the mind killer. Right. And that's really stuck with me.
I made it that far.
Yeah. Yeah. So even Jerred made it that far.
On the cover.
I think it was like the third page, but yeah.
Yeah. Fear is the mind killer, I think. Yeah. And that part has kind of stuck with me too. There are things that are more dangerous to you than just being physically attacked or something like that. I think there are things that can creep in your mind and just creep into your body that are more dangerous to you. And those are the things that stick out to me about being hard to kill, is resistant to disease and having a strong mindset and not being weak in those areas.
You know, what's funny is, so we do a lot of Facebook advertising, and I know, Kyle, you've seen a lot of the comments over the years. There are a lot of haters out there. We don't talk about that stuff a lot because, you know, why focus on the negative? But that is something that comes up all the time. The misconception of what we mean by hard to kill. Basically, everything you guys have described is what I mean. You know, when I started using that term, and I'm going to talk about the origin of exactly why I started using it. But a lot of what I believe is what you said, Kyle, is it's this being resilient, resistant to disease, things of that nature. Because some of the comments we've gotten, if we mention hard to kill in an ad, are fitness won't make you, you know, a good fighter. You're an idiot. And it's like, I never said that. You know, like cardiovascular disease and cancer are going to kill more people this year than fights. Okay. Yeah. So like, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. A lot of those comments are like, being hard to kill, you have to be a warrior. Like you're a strong warrior, you know, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's a huge misconception about what we mean when we use it. But I do want to talk about the origin story, because a lot of people have heard that quote from Mark Ripto, and it's stronger people are hard to kill and more useful in general, something like that. There's something along those lines. That is not why I started using the quote. That's great that Ripto did it, but if you know me, I'm not a huge Ripto fan for a lot of reasons. I think he's got some great information on squatting and deadlifting and whatever. But if anyone wants to talk to me about why I'm not a huge fan, that's fine. But anyway, I'm not a huge fan. And so it wasn't like I loved Ripto, so I wanted to use something that he got. That's the first place I had probably truly ever heard it. But the first application, when I was working with special tactics in the Air Force, towards the end of my career, I got to work with a group called the Special Operations Surgical Teams, and probably the coolest human beings I've ever worked with. One of the guys, this is just such a crazy story. He was a Marine, and then he left the Marines to join the Navy, and then became a Navy SEAL, and then he left the Navy to become a surgeon. Then he became a civilian surgeon, and then he came back in the Air Force as a surgeon. So he was a Marine, a Navy SEAL, and then came into the Air Force as a medical doctor, surgeon. And then he started the Special Operations Surgical Teams. So what these surgical teams do, most of the time, if people aren't familiar, if you get like blown up or shot when you're deployed, there might be like an EMT type person who's going to try and make you not die. That's pretty much their only purpose, make you not die, not fix you. And then you get flown to like Germany or something, like a tier 1 type base where they're going to have all of the surgical equipment they need. But a few years ago, I mean, I guess it's probably closer to a decade at this point, but they were trying to increase the survivability of people by getting that level of help as close to the battlefield as possible. And that's when they started Special Operations Surgical Teams within the Air Force. So these guys deploy as far forward as you possibly can without actually being the one who are knocking in doors and all this other stuff, because that's not their job. And what they found is having these Special Operations Surgical Teams for Navy SEALs, for special operators, and special forces, is it increased their survivability a ton. Because if they got shot, you'd actually have a legit surgeon and medical staff being able to help you, like a few miles back, who could literally save your life. And I remember I was interviewing this guy, just asking him a ton of questions, because I was just like so interested. It wasn't an official interview. I just like basically was interviewing him. And I remember he was talking about where they have to train and what they have to do. They have to go to places that have really high crime. So they go to St. Louis, and they go to maybe it was Birmingham, somewhere in Alabama, like these places that have like where people get shot a lot, like in gang battles and other stuff, like really high trauma. And that's where they practice. And they practice saving people's lives there. And then they go, because where else can you practice stuff like that? And so anyway, he was talking about the difference between a dude who's 300 pounds, massively overweight, got shot, and they're trying to save his life, how hard that is for them to actually do and to be successful. He says, versus these operators. And he said, not only are they in better shape, he didn't know what to say for a second. He's like, I don't know. He's like, they're just hard to kill. That's what he said to me. He's like, they're just hard to kill. He's like, I don't know. They get on the operating table. He's like, I've seen things, not near as bad kill people, but they have like 7 bullet holes in them and they aren't dead and they refuse to die, and we can actually save them. And that was just one of the, I got like chills to my spine, having this conversation with him. And I was just like, cause he's talking about, American patriots and what they're doing and then what they go through. So that hit really hard with me. So in my initial application was, because he was talking about their fitness level. He was talking about how well conditioned they are and how that leads to their survivability. Those are the things that he was hinting at. And so that's why I did originally start using it for kind of a military application. Like, hey, you actually be hard to kill. Like maybe if you got in a car accident, you would be harder to kill. But then I did realize what Kyle just pointed out pretty early on is like that for our athletes, because I was training military athletes to start. For our athletes, it still applies because we don't have to worry about bullet wounds or hand grenades, but a lot of other stuff is killing us. Laziness is killing us. Food kills us. Stress kills us. All of these things, that's what kills us today. And so how do we become hard to kill in a more modern environment when we don't have to worry about, like I said, those bullet wounds and hand grenades? And it's being incredibly resilient, being able to mitigate stress, to fix your nutrition, to sleep more. So it's all those things that it's just as important to focus on the elements to be hard to kill, the EO3 elements that we have every single day of your programming. So focusing on those things, but also focusing on having a level of fitness that is going to support you living a very long time, whether that be some sort of acute trauma or avoiding chronic illness, which is killing most of the world today, really. So yeah, that's what being hard to kill means to me.
Yeah, we've had a lot of our athlete interviews, our Thursday podcast. We've had a lot of athletes that have been in our program for a while and have stories about them from the past that they've had these either heart failures, even heart surgeries, and have had those tough talks with their doctors saying, hey, if you don't do anything, you might not live past 50 or 60 or something like that. So we've had these people that, you have the rude awakening, and if you don't do anything, it might just be, if you to live longer. So, and then now it's, they're doing things that they never thought they might do because of training and because of looking after all the aspects of their life.
Yeah. And maybe caveat for everybody is you don't have to be on the hard to kill track to be hard to kill. Maybe that should be a big takeaway for everybody. The hard to kill track. I mean, another thing hard to kill means to me is what Joe mentioned, being incredibly well-rounded. Like that's definitely what it means to me, not being a specialist in your fitness. And so that's a big part of it. And that's why the hard to kill track is our most generalized track. It covers so many different areas. It doesn't really focus on any area. And a lot of our athletes enjoy that, and kind of helps with some of that fitness ADD that people tend to have. But that's why it's called the hard to kill track officially, is because it does cater more to that well-roundedness that we believe being hard to kill is. But all the tracks, like I said, are concurrent training. And I do think concurrent training is what's going to make you harder to kill in general, on top of the EO3 elements.
Yeah. It's not also an aesthetic thing. You're not, being jacked doesn't mean that you're hard to kill. You could just be just as unhealthy. You know what else is hard to kill? That's not a platypus.
Yeah. And honey badger.
Yeah. Honey badgers. They don't give a,
they're very hard to kill. And some sort of plant I own. The ZZ plant. If you guys are looking for a plant that's very hard to kill.
Oh, that's right. You had a story about that, I think.
It's a simple story. It's a short story. I can share it right now.
I'm so glad our conversation went this way.
I'm talking about people laying on operating tables. Now we're talking about plants. It's just, you never know with us.
Same.
So we were at Home Depot or Lowe's. I don't know. I don't pick. I don't have loyalty to either one. And anyway, we walked into the nursery. We were going to buy some plants, and there were ZZ plants, and literally whoever wrote it that day, it said hard to kill. And that's a great marketing stance for a plant if you're bad at taking care of plants. Because
everybody is.
Yeah.
Unless you're a gardener.
And so I immediately wanted the plant because of the hard to kill reference, but I was also, I don't I don't keep plants very well. So I'm like, this is great. And it's so true, man. That guy could forget to water it for like 3 months and it's still alive. I'm like, oh yeah, I should water you. You can also water it daily. It's not like too much water kills it. So it's just an amazing, amazing plant, and they live forever. Actually, I don't even know where we put it in the new house. Should probably check on that. I think
It might not be killed, but it might have been lost.
I'm sure it's still fine wherever it's
Easy
at.
to lose.
But it's been alive for years. Like we've had it for years, and moving. Like we had it in Texas. We moved to North Carolina. We moved back. We moved to another house in Texas. It's made it through all that as well, which is surprising with us. So, well, I think it has. I actually don't even know where it's at in this house. It's probably like sitting next to my bed with the observance level we've discussed on. Probably like right next
In your
to
own house?
Yeah. I don't. So anyway.
So is that the official plant of Garage Gym Athlete? The ZZ plant?
The ZZ plant. And next week I'll update everyone on whether or not I still have the plant.
There we go.
I'll try and locate it.
I mean, speaking of stressing out plants, did you know that like peppers, if you stress them out more, they just become more spicy, so they become stronger?
Do you like yell at them?
Yes. Actually, I have a friend that would neglect to water them. And if you actually like stress them, they become spicier and hotter. I don't know how much yelling he did toward them, but it's a real thing.
You like slap them and yell at them. Wow.
So the peppers get like sassy.
They get spicier. They're not sassy. Yeah. That's just silly. All right, Kyle.
You're going too far, Kyle.
Yeah. All right. We're just yelling at the peppers.
We're talking about yelling at peppers for increased spiciness. Let's
just talk about the fact that we're talking about peppers.
Look, you can try and
conversation about being hard to kill.
How many rabbit holes we can go down?
Our ability to stay on track is not hard to kill, actually.
Yeah.
So
no, we're really well rounded. I think it is. This is a hard to kill conversation, covering all our bases. But Joe's about to cover the workout, so don't worry.
Well, I was gonna segue. I had way better segue. Never mind. All right.
Oh, then use your segue.
Well, you know what you need. You need, if you're gonna pull off a river heist, you need to be hard to kill.
There. So, that was a good. Yeah, I should have just said nothing.
Kind of. Okay. So this week's workout is River Heist, and this one is my baby. This is one that I made up all by my lonesome, and I'm actually very surprised that I don't think I got a much of an adjustment. You adjusted a little bit. I think you put the cap in. We talked about it a little bit, but how it would play out. And so the workout, I'll do that first. So the workout it's just 5 rounds with a 33-minute time cap, and it is 5 rounds of a 1,000-meter row or run, and then a 1,000 pounds of ground to shoulder with a ball, a sandbag, a whatever. So that would mean you're accumulating 1,000 pounds. So if you have a 100-pound sandbag, then that is 10 reps of a 100-pound sandbag ground to shoulder of that, or do the math for whatever you're doing for the weight itself. So you can use pretty much anything weight wise except a barbell. I think that's come up before, but that's not how this is designed. If so, you were talking slam ball, med ball, sandbag, kettlebell. And if you don't have any of those and you have a barbell, guess what? You have weight plates. So you're using a weight plate. It's not meant to do with a barbell. The original origin of this actually came from, and I'll just roll right into my tip, is to have fun with this. And that is how I created this workout, is because there was a big sale on equipment, and I bought a 60-pound slam ball, and I was just in the backyard having some fun with it. And I was like, I should just make up a workout from this, because all I'm doing is slamming this ball around. So I should probably add something else to it. And I threw in 1,000-meter rows, and I would need to think of a system to what I was going to lift the ball to. And this was born. So my advice is to have fun with it, choose something. And this is one that you can do, if you repeat and down the future, note what you do your weight in and your time, because then you can go a different route, whether it's higher weight, lower reps one time, and then vice versa the other time. So do what you have fun, see what you can use.
So where did the name River Heist come from?
Well, I was trying to think of what it would apply to rowing and lifting weights. And if you're rowing to like one of those, in those old like casino boats, you're heisting the boat. So you're rowing out to the boat, you're jacking the casino money, and you're rowing back. You got to lift the bags of coins. It's the River Heist, man.
That's it.
It makes sense. See, mine have stories to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
as they
My
should.
brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Well, the reason I wanted you to explain that is because that's part of my tips. So, my first tip with this one would be to just keep moving. Don't like stop with the whole, especially if you're imagining yourself pulling off a heist, you're literally robbing somebody. You don't want to stop because you get tired. So just keep moving with whatever weight you pick, and you're doing your ground to shoulder. Don't rest with those reps. Just keep moving at a steady pace with the rowing or the running. Keep moving at a steady pace. Keep it going. Also, remember, don't forget your time cap at 33 minutes. Also, I would say keep proper form on that ground to shoulder, because picking something up from the ground, taking it up to your shoulder, once you get tired after doing a few of those reps, you're going to want to start using your back improperly, and then throwing the rowing in on top of that. If you're doing rowing, your back's going to be worn out. Don't do that. Like, make sure that you're focusing on form with those ground to shoulders, because you could really be feeling it in your back afterwards if you're not doing it the right way. So since Ashley's not here, I'll do the music pairing with this workout. And so I said something up tempo, possibly banjos. Since it's a river heist, I just thought of banjos playing while you're rowing away with all your money. So throw in some banjo music for your river heist.
I'm just thinking
Is our banjos associated with rivers? That's a thing?
Well, I feel like it's a Western thing where it's don't when they're just like
when they're going really fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what I thought of.
Yeah, that carnival music. Yeah.
There you go. Get it in there.
Well, do you have a banjo song that you could point us towards?
Rocky Top. That's a good one.
All right. I actually like banjo, so I'm interested to hear your banjo playlist, Kyle.
I'll put that together. I'll send it your way.
All right. My tips for this one, just be mindful of the time cap in the selection of your weight. Sometimes people think that I'll just go really light and do a lot of reps. And that's fine. You could do that, but reps, no matter how light you go, that it's just, they take time. Like each repetition is going to take about the same amount of time. Just going to be the level of difficulty that you want it to be. So if you do want to finish under that time cap, just be mindful of your weight selection. And I would say if you want this to be more aerobic based, so you really just want to get a really strong aerobic workout, then I would go lighter, higher rep on the 1,000-pound. But if you want to turn it into more strength, functional, like Joe mentioned, 100-pound sandbag, I mean, that'd be a challenging ground to shoulder every single time, because it's different than like 100-pound clean. It's just a little bit more challenging. But if you do want to be more strength based, then you could do that. Now the 1,000-meter row is where I'd want to see consistency on the whole thing, but that's where I would strive to be as consistent as possible, because it's just going to hold you to a little bit more discipline of pacing. So for 5 rounds, I mean, that's 5,000 meters. I'm trying to debate whether or not I would actually keep like my 2,000 meter row pace, because it's half as far. I think I would. Maybe slightly slower than my 2,000 meter row pace, but not much slower for that 1,000 meter row. So that's what I would do. But that's about it on the tips. Have fun with it. I think it's cool. You got a little story behind it. That's maybe if you have an imagination, unlike me, you could go through this workout pretending to do something like that.
Full Hamburglar costume if somebody really wants to get some extra credit.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else? We're good.
I think we covered a lot today. I think we're good.
Yeah. ZZ Plant's the official plant of the of Garage Gym Athletes.
Is that spelled like ZZ Top or like ZEE? I don't even know how ZZ Top is spelled.
And that definitely
it's just 2 Z's.
It's not going to be the official name, so maybe I should get like the plant genus species, whatever it's called, like
the long one.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, they save this stuff for the team meeting. I think the team meetings would be better than podcasts. Sometimes we should just start recording those.
Pushing moves, yeah. If everybody wants to get it.
That'd be hilarious. Like talk about the week and stuff, but they're not much different than podcasts. We just don't have a study. So
ending
you guys
the last
like the
podcast,
in between. then it's basically just that the whole time.
And in the last podcast, we had a hilarious moment. We should have just kept recording then, but
yeah.
Oh, well.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. I do appreciate every single Garage Gym athlete we have. So if you are subscribed to the programming, you're doing your EO3 elements, you're getting that sleep, you're trying. That's the main thing. You don't have to be perfect, guys, but you're trying. I really do appreciate you, and your family appreciates you for trying, and your body appreciates you for trying hard. So keep trying hard. I know it's difficult. None of this stuff is easy. It's all simple, but none of it's easy. So keep after it, all of our Garage Gym athletes out there. And then anyone who's on the fence and thinking about it, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can sign up for a 14-day free trial, and we'd love to have you kind of walk through our system, guys. It's not just programming. We talk about sleep and the EO3 elements and how I actually believe being hard to kill is checking off as many of those EO3 elements as you can every day on top of doing the training. That's not very common for online programming, and we are uncommon in that regard. So if you want to be uncommon, like the rest of us, go to garagegymathlete.com and sign up for that free trial. That's all I got for this week. Peace. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.